A tiny Mustang foal, abandoned and barely clinging to life, lay helpless in the middle of the wilderness. When a kind-hearted rancher stumbled upon the fragile creature, he made a split-second decision that would change both of their lives forever. Years later, as their paths crossed once again, what happened next was something he could never have imagined. This is a story of courage, resilience, and a bond so powerful it will leave you speechless. Stay with us for a tale that will warm your heart and bring tears to your eyes. The early morning sun had just begun to rise over the rugged plains, painting the horizon in soft hues of orange and gold. Sam Carter, a seasoned rancher with years of hard work etched into the lines of his face, was riding his trusted horse, Scout, along the outskirts of his sprawling property. It was a routine ride, one he often took to check on his fences and ensure no strays had wandered too far. The crisp air carried the faint sound of birdsong, and the gentle rustling of leaves was the only noise breaking the serene silence. As Sam guided Scout down a winding path, near the edge of the forest, something unusual caught his eye at first. It seemed like a mound of dirt or a cluster of rocks, but as he drew closer, he realized it was moving, or rather, trembling. His heart skipped a beat as he dismounted, the weight of his boots crunching against the dry earth. Lying in the grass was a tiny Mustang foal, barely able to lift its head. Its chestnut coat was matted with mud, and its ribs were starkly visible. Rising and falling with each shallow breath, the foal's dark, fearful eyes met Sam's, filled with desperation and pain. It was clear that the little one had been abandoned, its mother nowhere in sight. Sam knelt beside the foal, his rough hands moving with surprising gentleness as he assessed its condition. There were no visible injuries, but the foal was severely dehydrated and weak. It wouldn't survive much longer on its own. Sam's mind raced. He knew wild Mustangs were fiercely independent, and intervening wasn't always the right choice. But looking into the foal's pleading eyes, he knew he couldn't walk away. "All right, little one," he murmured, his voice soft yet resolute. "Let's get you out of here." With care, Sam wrapped his jacket around the foal, shielding it from the chill as he lifted its fragile body into his arms. The foal let out a faint whimper, too weak to resist. Sam placed it gently across Scout's saddle, holding it steady as he mounted behind. The ride back to the ranch was slow and careful, every bump in the trail making Sam more aware of how fragile the foal truly was. By the time they arrived at the ranch, the morning sun was higher in the sky, casting long shadows over the paddocks and barn. Sam carried the foal into the barn, where he prepared a makeshift bed of hay in an empty stall. He fetched a bucket of water and some milk replacer he kept for emergencies, carefully coaxing the foal to drink. At first, it resisted, its tiny body too exhausted to respond. But with patience and persistence, Sam managed to get the foal to take a few sips. "You're a fighter, aren't you?" Sam said, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. He decided to name the foal Chance, a nod to the second chance he was giving it, and perhaps the second chance it was giving him. Over the coming days, Sam's life revolved around Chance. He woke up at dawn to check on the foal, feeding it every few hours and making sure it stayed warm. Slowly but surely, Chance began to improve. Its legs, once shaky and frail, grew stronger, and its eyes, once dull with exhaustion, now sparkled with curiosity. Sam couldn't help but grow attached. There was something special about the little Mustang, a determination, a spark of life that refused to be extinguished. And though Sam had always been a practical man, not prone to sentimentality, he found himself talking to Chance as he worked, sharing stories of the ranch and the horses he'd raised over the years. One evening, as the sun set over the ranch, Sam stood by the paddock, watching Chance explore the grassy enclosure. The foal's movements were still cautious, but there was a newfound confidence in its steps. Sam leaned against the fence, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. Saving Chance had reminded him of why he had dedicated his life to this land and its animals. The beauty of resilience, the quiet strength found in moments of vulnerability. "Looks like you're going to be all right, kid," he said softly. Chance lifted its head as if understanding the words and let out a soft whinny in response. But as much as Sam wanted to protect Chance forever, he knew the day would come when the Mustang would have to return to the wild. Chance wasn't meant to live a domesticated life. It was in its nature to roam free, to run with the wind across open plains. For now, though, the bond between them grew stronger with each passing day, a testament to the power of compassion and the indomitable spirit of a tiny Mustang foal. Sam focused on the present, cherishing the bond they were building and the lessons Chance was teaching him about hope, perseverance, and the power of a second chance. The days turned into weeks, and under Sam's care, Chance began to thrive. What once was a fragile, malnourished foal had transformed into a spirited young Mustang, with a gleaming chestnut coat and a curious, determined nature. The bond between man and horse grew stronger with every passing day. Sam found himself spending more time at the paddock, watching Chance explore, play, and sometimes cause mischief, like knocking over buckets of water or nibbling on the edge of Sam's hat when he wasn't paying attention. One particular morning, Sam stood outside the paddock, leaning on the fence as Chance pranced around in the cool morning light. The Mustang had grown more confident, testing the limits of its new world. But Sam knew that for all of Chance's progress, trust was still a delicate thing. Wild Mustangs carried an innate wariness, and while Chance had warmed to Sam, certain movements or sounds could still send the young horse into a panic. That day, Sam decided to take the next step in their journey. He grabbed a halter and a rope from the barn, walking back to the paddock with a purposeful stride. "All right, Chance," he called, his voice calm but firm. "Let's see if we can't get you used to this." Chance raised its head, ears wiggling toward Sam as he approached. The Mustang nickered softly but took a cautious step back as Sam entered the enclosure. Sam knelt, holding the halter low, his movements slow and deliberate. "It's just me, kid," he said softly. "You've got nothing to worry about." At first, Chance backed away, skittering a few feet, but Sam stayed patient, waiting for the Mustang to make the first move. Over the weeks, he'd learned that trust couldn't be forced. It had to be earned step by step. He kept his posture relaxed, speaking in a low, soothing tone as he let Chance sniff the halter. Eventually, the Mustang inched closer, its curiosity outweighing its fear. "That's it," Sam murmured, sliding the halter gently over Chance's head. The Mustang flinched, but didn't pull away, its dark eyes watching Sam intently. "Good boy," Sam said, giving Chance's neck a reassuring pat. "You're braver than most folks I know." The rest of the morning was spent walking Chance around the paddock, getting the Mustang accustomed to the feel of the rope and the sound of Sam's commands. It wasn't always smooth. There were moments when Chance would stop abruptly or pull against the rope, its wild instincts flaring up. But each time, Sam responded with patience, never forcing the horse to do more than it was ready for. By the end of the session, Chance was following Sam's lead with surprising ease. The Mustang's strides matched Sam's, and there was a calmness in its movements that hadn't been there before. Sam couldn't help but smile as he led Chance back to the barn. "You're getting the hang of this," he said, giving the horse a playful nudge. "You might just make a ranch horse out of you yet." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sam sat on the porch with a cup of coffee in hand. Chance was grazing peacefully in the paddock, the golden light of the sunset reflecting off its coat. For the first time in a long while, Sam felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Saving Chance had reminded him of the joy and purpose that came with working the land and caring for its creatures. But even as he watched the Mustang, a thought lingered in the back of his mind. Chance was growing stronger and more independent. Every day, soon, the question would arise, should the horse stay on the ranch, or should it return to the wild? Sam knew the answer wouldn't be easy. For now, though, he pushed the thought aside, choosing instead to focus on the present. In the weeks that followed, Sam continued working with Chance, introducing the Mustang to new challenges. They practiced walking through streams, navigating uneven terrain, and even trotting in wide circles under Sam's guidance. Each small victory felt monumental, a testament to the trust they had built together. One afternoon, as Sam sat on the paddock fence watching Chance, a truck pulled into the driveway. It was one of his neighbors, a rancher named Tom, who stepped out with a knowing smile. "You've got yourself quite the horse there," Tom said, nodding toward Chance. Sam chuckled, tipping his hat. He's a handful, that's for sure, but he's worth it. Tom leaned against the fence, his gaze thoughtful. Are you planning to keep him? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Sam didn't answer right away. I'm not sure yet, he finally admitted. He's not meant to be fenced in forever, but letting him go, that's easier said than done. Tom nodded, clapping a hand on Sam's shoulder. You'll figure it out. You always do. That night, as Sam lay in bed, the question weighed on him. Chance had become more than just a rescue. He was a companion, a reminder of the resilience of life. But deep down, Sam knew the day would come when he'd have to make a choice. For now, he could only hope he'd have the strength to do what was best for the Mustang, even if it meant letting go. The ranch was quiet that morning, save for the occasional rustle of the wind through the tall grass. Sam stood by the paddock, resting his arms on the wooden fence as he watched Chance explore the field. The young Mustang had grown stronger with each passing week, his coat now sleek and radiant, his strides confident and purposeful. But despite all the progress, there was something restless about the way Chance moved. His ears perked at every distant sound, his head turning as if he were searching for something beyond the confines of the ranch. Sam let out a slow breath, his heart heavy. He had been avoiding the inevitable, but it was becoming clearer with each passing day that Chance wasn't meant to live a life behind fences. The wildness in him, though tempered by trust, was still very much alive. Later that afternoon, as Sam worked in the barn, a familiar truck pulled into the driveway. Tom stepped out, carrying a small toolbox. Fence still giving you trouble? He called out with a grin. Always, Sam replied, setting down his hammer. The two men had worked together on countless projects over the years, and fixing fences had become something of a ritual. As they worked side by side, Tom glanced toward the paddock. He's looking good, he said, nodding toward Chance. Almost too good. Sam paused, his grip tightening on the fence post. What do you mean? Tom shrugged, leaning on the post. You know what I mean. That horse was born to run free. You've done right by him, Sam, but keeping him here, that's not who he is. Sam didn't respond right away. He knew Tom was right. He had known it for weeks, but the thought of letting Chance go was a weight he wasn't ready to bear. I just need more time, he said finally, his voice quieter than usual. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sam walked out to the paddock with a bucket of water. Chance trotted over to meet him, his ears flicking forward in recognition. Sam reached out, running a hand along the Mustang's neck. You're getting too big for this place, aren't you? He murmured. Chance nickered softly, nudging Sam's shoulder as if in response. Sam set the bucket down and leaned against the fence, his thoughts racing. The bond he had built with Chance was unlike anything he had experienced before. The Mustang had taught him patience, resilience, and a kind of quiet strength that he hadn't realized he needed. But as much as Sam wanted to keep Chance by his side, he knew that the horse deserved more, a life beyond the boundaries of the ranch. The decision came 2 days later. Sam loaded Scout into the trailer and prepared Chance for the journey ahead. He had made arrangements with a nearby Mustang sanctuary, a sprawling expanse of protected land where wild horses roamed freely. It was the best option for Chance Day, place where he could live as nature intended while still being monitored and cared for. As Sam led Chance into the trailer, the Mustang hesitated, his dark eyes locking onto Sam's. It's okay, boy, Sam said softly, his hand steady on the rope. This isn't goodbye, not really. Chance stepped into the trailer, his movements calm but deliberate. Sam secured the gate and climbed into the truck, his chest tightening as he started the engine. The drive to the sanctuary was long and quiet. Sam glanced in the rearview mirror every so often, watching Chance shift slightly in the trailer. His mind replayed the journey they had shared, the day he had found the foal weak and trembling, the long night spent nursing him back to health, and the first time Chance had trusted him enough to take food from his hand. Every moment felt vivid and raw, a reminder of just how far they had come. When they arrived at the sanctuary, a representative greeted Sam with a warm smile. He's a beautiful one, she said, her eyes scanning Chance as Sam led him out of the trailer. He's special, Sam replied, his voice thick with emotion. The release was bittersweet as Sam opened the gate to the wide expanse of land. Chance hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. The Mustang sniffed the air, his ears twitching as he took in his new surroundings. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, he broke into a gallop, his chestnut coat gleaming in the sunlight as he disappeared into the distance. Sam stood by the fence, his hands gripping the rail as he watched Chance join a distant herd. His heart ached, but there was also a profound sense of peace. This was where Chance belonged, running free with his kind. On the drive home, the emptiness of the trailer felt like a hollow ache. But as Sam pulled into the ranch and stepped out of the truck, he looked around at the land he had built and cared for. Saving Chance had changed something in him, reigniting a sense of purpose and reminding him of the beauty of second chances. As the sun set over the horizon, Sam stood by the paddock, his thoughts drifting to the Mustang now running free. "Run far, kid," he murmured, tipping his hat toward the distant hills. "You've earned it." The ranch was quiet without Chance. The paddock that once bustled with the young Mustang's spirited energy now stood empty, a subtle reminder of the bond Sam had reluctantly let go. Days turned into weeks, and while the routine of ranch life carried on, Sam found his thoughts drifting to the sanctuary in the wide-open plains where Chance now ran free. Each evening, Sam would lean against the paddock fence, his gaze fixed on the horizon. He'd recall the way Chance had galloped into the sanctuary without looking back, the confidence and freedom in his stride. It was the right decision, Sam knew. But that didn't make it any easier. One afternoon, a letter arrived from the sanctuary. The envelope bore the familiar logo, and Sam's heart skipped a beat as he unfolded the paper inside. It was an update on Chance. The Mustang had quickly adjusted to life in the sanctuary, integrating with a small herd of other rescues. The note detailed his progress, mentioning how he'd become somewhat of a leader among the group, his natural confidence and strength inspiring the other horses to follow him. Sam smiled as he read the words. "That's my boy," he murmured, folding the letter carefully and tucking it into his pocket. Knowing that Chance was thriving brought a measure of peace, even if the ache of missing him lingered. A few months later, as spring began to bloom across the ranch, Sam received an unexpected visit. A truck pulled into the driveway, its dusty exterior hinting at a long journey. Out stepped a young woman in a wide-brimmed hat, her boots clicking against the gravel as she approached. "Mr. Carter?" she asked, extending her hand. "I'm Emily Rivers from the sanctuary." Sam shook her hand, his brow furrowed in curiosity. "Nice to meet you, Emily. What brings you out here?" Emily smiled, though there was a hint of seriousness in her eyes. "It's about Chance. We thought you should know something remarkable happened." She went on to explain how Chance had led his herd during a recent storm, guiding them to higher ground when floodwaters threatened their grazing area. The sanctuary staff had been monitoring the situation, but by the time they arrived, Chance had already taken charge, ensuring the safety of the other horses. "We've never seen anything like it," Emily said, her admiration evident. "It's like he's found his purpose out there." Sam listened intently, his chest swelling with pride. "He's always been a fighter," he said softly. "Even when I found him barely clinging to life, he had that spark." Emily nodded. "We thought you might like to visit and see how he's doing. You're a big part of his story." After all, the invitation caught Sam off guard. He hadn't expected to see Chance again, let alone return to the sanctuary where he had left him. But as the idea settled, Sam felt a pull he couldn't ignore. "I'd like that," he said finally, his voice steady. The following weekend, Sam loaded Scout into the trailer and set off for the sanctuary. The drive felt familiar yet different, the anticipation of seeing Chance again mingling with a quiet nervousness. When he arrived, Emily greeted him at the gate, her smile warm and welcoming. "He's out in the far pasture," she said, leading Sam through the sanctuary grounds. The land stretched for miles, a patchwork of rolling hills and open fields dotted with grazing horses. It was a sight that filled Sam with a deep sense of peace. As they approached the pasture, Sam spotted a small herd clustered near a grove of trees. Among them, a chestnut Mustang stood tall, his coat gleaming in the sunlight. Sam's breath caught in his throat. It was Chance, The horse's posture was confident and regal. His head held high as he surveyed the herd around him. Emily whistled softly, and Chance's ears flicked in their direction. When his eyes landed on Sam, something shifted. The Mustang froze, his gaze locked on the man who had once saved his life. For a moment, everything else faded: the distant sounds of the sanctuary, the rustling of the trees. It was just the two of them, their bond spanning the distance. Then, to Sam's astonishment, Chance began to move. At first, it was a hesitant step, but soon the Mustang was trotting toward him, his powerful strides kicking up dust as he closed the gap. As the weeks went by, Chance settled back into the rhythm of ranch life. He seemed calmer, more at ease, as though he had found his place in the world. Sam worked with him daily, strengthening their bond even further. The Mustang, once wild and wary, now followed Sam with unwavering trust. One evening, as the sun set over the ranch, Sam stood by the paddock, watching Chance trot across the field. The horse moved with a grace and confidence that took Sam's breath away. He thought back to the day he had found Chance, a fragile foal barely clinging to life. Seeing him now, strong and free, filled Sam with a sense of pride and gratitude he couldn't put into words. For Sam, Chance's return wasn't just a reunion. It was a reminder of the unbreakable bond they shared. The Mustang had come back not out of necessity but out of choice, and that made their connection all the more meaningful. As the stars began to appear overhead, Sam tipped his hat, a quiet smile on his face. "Welcome home, Chance," he said softly. "Welcome home." The morning sun rose over the ranch, casting long shadows across the paddocks and painting the fields in hues of gold. Sam stood by the barn, leaning on the old wooden door as he watched Chance graze in the open field. The Mustang moved with a calm grace, his chestnut coat gleaming in the warm light. It was difficult to believe that just months ago, Sam had let him go, only for Chance to find his way back. The bond they shared, forged through trust and perseverance, now seemed unbreakable. Sam couldn't help but feel a well of gratitude. As he watched the horse, Chance had become more than just a part of the ranch. He was a symbol of everything Sam held dear: resilience, freedom, and the quiet strength that came from overcoming life's challenges. That morning, Sam decided it was time to take Chance for a ride. It had been years since he had worked with a Mustang so closely, and while Chance had always shown incredible spirit, Sam wanted to see just how far their trust could take them. He saddled Scout first, knowing his steady old horse would provide a calming presence for Chance. As Sam approached Chance in the paddock, he carried the saddle low, his movements deliberate and steady. Chance lifted his head, his dark eyes following Sam as he stepped closer. "Easy, boy," Sam murmured, his voice low and soothing. "Let's see what you've got." Chance stood still as Sam placed the saddle on his back, his ears twitching, but his body relaxed. It was a stark contrast to the skittish foal Sam had rescued all those years ago. Now, Chance seemed to trust him completely, his confidence mirroring Sam's own. The ride began slowly, with Sam leading both horses out of the paddock and toward the open fields. The land stretched out before them, vast and untouched, with tall grass swaying in the breeze. Sam mounted Scout first, giving Chance time to adjust to the situation. Then, with a steady hand, he climbed onto Chance's back. At first, the Mustang moved cautiously, his steps deliberate. As Chance adjusted to the weight of the saddle and Sam's presence, they made their way deeper into the fields. Chance's confidence grew, his strides becoming longer and his movements more fluid until he was trotting alongside Scout with ease. By the time they reached the edge of the property, Sam felt a familiar exhilaration building in his chest. He nudged Chance into a canter, the wind rushing past them as the Mustang surged forward. For the first time in years, Sam felt truly free, the burdens of the past falling away with each stride. The ride was a testament to how far they had come, not just as horse and rider, but as partners. Sam had saved Chance when he was at his weakest, but in many ways, Chance had done the same for Sam. The Mustang had reminded him of the importance of patience, the beauty in second chances, and the unbreakable connection between man and nature. When they returned to the ranch, Sam dismounted and led Chance back to the paddock. The Mustang snorted softly, nudging Sam's shoulder as if to say, "We did well." Sam chuckled, running a hand along Chance's neck. "You've got the heart of a champion, boy," he said, his voice filled with pride. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sam sat on the porch with a cup of coffee in hand. Chance stood in the paddock, his silhouette framed by the golden light of the setting sun. It was a moment of pure peace, the kind that reminded Sam why he had dedicated his life to this land and its animals. The weeks that followed were filled with quiet moments like this. Sam and Chance continued to work together, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. And while Sam knew the Mustang would always carry a part of the wild within him, he also knew that Chance had chosen to stay, a decision that meant more than words could ever express. One evening, as Sam stood by the paddock watching the stars blink into existence above the ranch, he found himself reflecting on everything Chance had taught him. The Mustang had shown him that even the deepest wounds could heal with time, trust, and care. In return, Sam had given Chance the freedom to be himself, unrestrained by fear or doubt. As the years went by, Chance became a fixture on the ranch, a constant reminder of the power of resilience and the beauty of second chances. Visitors to the ranch would often marvel at the chestnut Mustang, captivated by his strength and grace. But for Sam, Chance was more than just a horse. He was a friend, a teacher, and a symbol of everything that mattered most in life. One day, as Sam leaned against the paddock fence watching Chance graze peacefully, he tipped his hat and smiled. "You and me, kid," he said softly. "We've been through it all, haven't we?" Chance lifted his head, his dark eyes meeting Sam's, and in that moment, no words were needed. The bond they shared said everything. Years passed, and the ranch remained a sanctuary of peace and purpose. Sam's days were slower now, but the rhythm of life on the ranch continued, steady and familiar. Chance had grown into a powerful Mustang, his chestnut coat gleaming under the sunlight as he ran freely across the fields. He had become more than just a horse. He was the heart of the ranch, a living symbol of resilience, trust, and second chances. Sam often found himself sitting on the porch, a warm cup of coffee in hand, watching Chance graze or gallop across the land. Visitors to the ranch always asked about the striking Mustang. Captivated by his strength and presence, Sam would tell them the story, his voice filled with pride and emotion, about how a fragile foal had entered his life and changed it forever. Chance's legacy stretched beyond the ranch, his story becoming one of hope for others, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's a chance for redemption and renewal. And though Sam had faced many challenges over the years, he knew that saving Chance had been one of the most profound experiences of his life. Blaze had been one of the greatest decisions of his life. One quiet evening, as the stars began to scatter across the sky, Sam leaned against the paddock fence, his gaze following Blaze as the Mustang trotted across the open field. The bond they had forged through trust, patience, and love remained as strong as ever. In Blaze, Sam saw the reflection of everything he had learned, that even the smallest acts of kindness can create ripples that last a lifetime. "Run far, kid," Sam said softly, tipping his hat. "You've earned it." The story of Sam and Blaze isn't just about a horse and his rescuer. It's about hope, trust, and the power of second chances. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to reflect on the bonds we share with the animals and people in our lives.